Canada, eh? Well, let's talk about Canada again. So today we're going to react to the video regarding food inflation. It's going to be from Toronto Sun, Brian Lilly. Did I pronounce it right? I never know with his name, sorry Brian. But anyway, he's going to be talking about the food inflation and what's Mark Carney doing about it. Well, we know what he's doing about it, right? Elbows up, and nothing's going to get solved. But anyway, before we get to the video, I bet all of you heard what happened last week with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was pretty much assassinated for fighting for freedom, fighting for freedom of speech or free speech. And yeah, what followed after assassination was kind of crazy to see all of these evil people in the comments, and I bet some of you have even friends that had some really weird comments, or weird is bad word, I would literally call it evil comments. But yeah, look, the world is not that dark. We're gonna carry on with everything Charlie fought for, and it's not just US issue. And if something, like I said, you have a people in your circle, I certainly did, who, yeah. So anyway, let's watch the video about inflation or food inflation. Why are we paying so much for the groceries?
Food inflation, it's a hard nut to crack. That's what some experts are saying, but why is it so persistently difficult? Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. Food inflation is likely to become a headache for Liberal leader and Prime Minister Mark Carney. Why? Because when he was sworn in after the election back in May, he told people to hold them to account based on the price of their groceries. Check it out.
Well, I think the way Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store, when they're paying their electricity bill, when they or their children are looking for a place to live.
Well, doesn't it sound very similar to what President Trump said? But the difference is President Trump was in the office for 10, 20 days and the price of the eggs went like 10 times down. And look, Mark Carney running on the same promise, which kind of makes sense, right? The issue is that your government, the Liberal government, literally created this issue. But yeah, good that you're saying you're gonna fix it, and now you're just continuing with what your government did, and it didn't go down. It actually went significantly up. Like, I'm not gonna lie, since April there's a lot of things that I used to buy every week, and now I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pay this much. I'm not gonna pay for the cereals that used to be $5 and now it's 10. And that all happened in April. Like, it's not even slow inflation, you know, like usually the prices always grow. Like, it's not like 10 years ago you bought bread for $1. Now it's 5. Well, this literally went 100% more in less than 6 months. So, like, whose fault is it? And my thing is, there are some laws against spiking the price, right? Why is government not doing anything? Why isn't government trying to regulate it? Instead of that, we're promising money left and right. We're gonna... Did you see Mark Carney? He promised 4,000 homes for how much he invested to that? $10 billion? So like 4,000 homes that cost over $1 million? Someone make a calculation that it came up to 1.4 million per one home, and it's supposed to be affordable living. Something doesn't add up. Like, affordable living, like, is it mansions? Wait, maybe it's townhouses in Toronto, because that used to be the price of townhouse, right? I don't know, it just doesn't add up. Someone mentioned money laundering. No, who knows, right? Well, let's see who got the contract. Maybe it's going to be one company that has some connections to Carney or to someone else in the government, right? Because it doesn't sound right to build 4,000 houses, and each house is worth, or building cost is 1.4 million, and he promotes it as affordable housing. That's ridiculous.
So it will be their experiences how they will hold it. They will form those judgments, and then of course accountability comes at the ballot box.
Well, the new food inflation numbers are out. Well, overall inflation is at 1.9%, driven mostly by the price of gas going down in August. But food inflation is at 3.4% overall, 3.5% for groceries, and then you get into some categories like meat, and it's 7.2%, 12.7% for beef, and there's some that are even worse, but I'll save those for our guest, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor, visiting scholar at McGill University in Montreal. Sylvain, you were kind of expecting these numbers, weren't you?
I was, unfortunately. And we've been saying it since, I guess, March. On March the 4th, if you recall, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau decided to implement counter tariffs against the U.S., making Canada the only other country than China to do that. And since the beginning, I've always thought it was a bad idea, especially when it comes to food. And
But how does that affect our food? Because most people are just going to think that we tariffed, steel and aluminum and the things they put tariffs on for us.
we were in breach of CUSMA. And this is something that a lot of Canadians didn't realize until probably this summer when a video went viral this summer, if you recall, filming the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, saying that we were in breach. And he was right. Finally, someone said it. And it impacted many, many verticals at the grocery store, including coffee, tea, pasta, spices, nuts, lots of goods, of course, citrus, some fresh products, not a whole lot, but some fresh products. And so it was just a matter of time before we saw food inflation being impacted by counter tariffs, and that's exactly what we got in both July and August.
So I don't even know what the logic or the thinking behind putting tariffs on that would be. During the election, conservative leader Pierre Poilievre supported the idea of putting counter tariffs, but he said, I believe he was the first to say, we'll apply them in a way that has maximum impact but doesn't hurt Canadians. Mark Carney quickly copied that language. And I thought, I remember thinking at the time, you don't want to be putting tariffs on celery from Bakersfield, California in the middle of the winter when we can't grow celery. Why would we tariff coffee? We don't grow coffee here. There is no way for us to say, you know what? Let's plant a coffee tree out back and put Juan Valdez out of business. That's not going to happen.
Do you remember how Liberal voters were like, "Oh, Mark Carney is best equipped to negotiate a new trade deal with US, and look at his resume, and he went through this crisis in 2008, and blah blah blah." People lie on the resume. People lie. And you should have realized it before elections, because he was so useless. And if you see him now in the Parliament Hill, it's like he thinks Canada, or being Prime Minister, is his sitcom. Really. Like, he thinks like he's in the movie. It's ridiculous. Like, when he speaks, he's like this movie star in a freaking Parliament Hill, or a House of Commons, or whatever you want to call it. It's ridiculous. No, you didn't accomplish shit so far. The people who trusted you and the people you're responsible for are suffering because of your, what's the word I'm looking for? Incompetence. But yeah, I always remember someone in my comments being like, "Hey, don't blame the Liberal voters." It's such a BS, you know. People will be like, "Oh, well, Mark Carney is in the power." Well, guess what? In April, you were in the power. And you decided to give it to Mark Carney. So yes, you're to be blamed. Everyone was telling you that he's lying. Everyone was telling you, don't vote liberals for freaking fourth time. And yet, you got bamboozled, voted for Carney, and here we are again. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I spoke to the Coffee Association of Canada, and there is a tea association in Canada as well. Both were scratching their heads in terms of why we tariffing tea and coffee when we have no sector to protect in the first place.
And the Americans don't produce it either.
That's right, but a lot of it is packaged in the U.S. So right now, what we're facing at the grocery store is a double whammy when it comes to tariffs. For example, we know now that the U.S. is applying a 50% tariff on anything that's coming from Brazil. Well, guess what was happening? So we get 50% from Brazil, and we added an extra 25% coming in, and with small margins.
That's ridiculous.
And this is the difference, Brian, between food and other sectors. With food, margins are so low, prices have to be adjusted very, very quickly, and that's why it didn't take long before we saw differences at the grocery store.
Yeah, margins are generally 2 to 4% in the food
approximately.
sector.
Yeah.
So why beef then? Because we produce a lot of beef here, and I know there's an integrated market with the United States, but I was just in a grocery store yesterday, and I looked in the beef counter, and
you had a heart attack.
Let me guess. The reason why beef and all our produce coming from Canada is so expensive is because the people selling it needs to make up for the lost because of the tariffs in going to US, right? So they're pretty much making money off us to make up the loss that government pretty much caused them. And yes, you're gonna be like, well, Pitak, but it's US government. We were supposed to have a trade deal in May, in June during the G7. But no, Canadians and Mark Carney's team wanted to renegotiate CUSMA, or USMCA, or whatever you want to call it. And Americans said, no, we want to deal about the trade right now. Like, if Mark Carney just followed the active CUSMA deal we have, the grocery prices could have been low, or lower than now. The grocery prices could have been like in May, April. But no, he literally went into it like all or nothing. So something that was currently not affecting us, he decided that it's mandatory to negotiate. And now we're in this deep shit. Again, pardon my French, but Canada, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't from eating too many steaks. It was from the price. But then I looked and there were cheaper options. And I'm scratching my head at this. Cheaper options are steak brought in from Australia.
Well, yeah.
So I'll ask you about the Australia in a minute, but what's driving the price of beef up? Is it the tariffs, or do we have something else going on?
No, it's not a tariff story there. It's really a drought. So back in 2014, we experienced the same thing. A drought affected many regions in North America, making animal feed more expensive. And when that happens, producers sell off their herds quickly because it costs them about $75 a day to feed one cow. So we want to get rid of them as soon as possible. This time around, about 2 years ago, the majority of the continent was impacted by a drought, making feed costs much higher. Same thing happened, but the difference between now and 2014 is that producers are checking out. They're selling out. They're cashing in. They're getting their money, and they're leaving the industry.
So they're
not
not
rebuilding their herd.
Okay, wait, hold on. I thought there's some huge incentive for agriculture industry due to drought and the tariffs and everything. So they're getting money from taxpayers, and they're still selling like crazy expensive beef. Oh boy, it's worse than I thought, to be honest. So they're just making money off Canadians either way. It's so they get our money as a taxpayer, and then they spike the price as well. I wonder if people are buying it, to be honest. Like, if I was eating beef, why would I buy expensive Canadian beef if I can buy cheaper Australian, right? Like, look at our economy, look at our salaries, look at other groceries. Like, I'm sorry, all of this, oh, shop local. Well, make it affordable. What are we talking about? If the situation in Canada is this bad, why would I buy expensive food that I'm not able to afford when I can buy Australian beef? It's, yeah, again, but Mark Carney is best suited for the job, right?
Herds.
They're not coming back with the new herd the next year.
That's right. So inventories are extremely low. Right now in Canada, our herd size is the same as it was back in 1989. And we have 15
Population's a
million
little
more
bit
Canadians.
bigger, yeah.
Yeah, and so in the U.S., same thing, but their herd size is the same as it was back in 1951. So we do not expect beef prices to normalize themselves, if you will, until probably early 2027.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love beef, so your
Me
words.
too. Me
your
too.
words
So
hit.
here's, but grocers are trying hard to make you, the beef consumer, happy by buying alternatives that may be affordable, and that's why you probably saw Australian steak out there.
So that, or the one that worries me is when I see ungraded beef.
Yes.
We all know the grading system, double A, triple A, prime,
Yeah.
or you go to the States, it's double A choice, prime, that sort of thing. We've aligned a little bit with the prime side on the Americans. I don't know what ungraded beef is. It's like the socks I remember my mother bought me when I was a kid that said 100% unknown material. I don't want this stuff near me. What's ungraded beef?
Well, it means it doesn't mean unsafe. It just means that the country of origin doesn't recognize the same grading system that we have in Canada. So the United States actually have the same grading system. So if you see ungraded beef, chances are it's coming from Mexico, and chances are it comes from an older animal. So I've actually tried Mexican beef in Canada. I've actually tried Mexican beef in Mexico, and it's not the same. It's not the
No.
same. It's cheaper, but not the same.
What is driving food inflation overall, aside from these issues around the tariffs? Because you've got many products going up. It has been persistent for years now. And, I pulled the "it's a hard nut to crack" from a headline I saw. Why has it been so difficult to get down? Core inflation at 1.9%. It's been in the range for quite some time, but I was just looking up. In July it was 3.4. In June it was 2.8. It has been persistently higher than the core inflation for months now.
That's right. And I think right now we're in the middle of a case study showing us, teaching us right now, that companies here in Canada have fewer options than in the United States. Look at the food inflation rate in the United States. It is much lower despite Trump's
Here we go.
tariff bonanza that he has implemented for months now. We were expecting food inflation and inflation to explode in the U.S. It's not happening because
I'll tell you why it's not happening, because President Trump actually cares about the people who he's responsible for, right? For Americans. Like, that's his number one priority. He doesn't care about Canada. He's going to tariff us 50%, whatever, right? He doesn't care we're not going to be able to afford a housing. That's why we have our own government. Unfortunately, our own government doesn't care either. It's very interesting. Like I said, they're spending money left and right. Now we're putting money for agriculture, which, yeah, it's cool that we're supporting local industry or farming, but then we're paying like crazy expensive beef after we already gave them portion of taxes. That sounds ridiculous to me. And yeah, like let's see how he's gonna explain it. But obviously, what I see is one man who's fulfilling the election promises, right? Or the promises he put during the campaign. And you can love him or hate him, but he's definitely doing much more for Americans than Mark Carney for Canadians. Like, no tips on overtimes, trying to get rid of income tax in general. Like, I heard this thing in the US, in some of the states, and I don't know, might be villages, whatever, right? But you're able to have 2 cars, buy a house, and pretty much your wife's going to be stay-at-home mom if you make $50,000 a year, which for Canadians, I guess it would be around 70, 80, which is doable salary in Canada, right? Can you afford it here for 80,000? Like, you can't even buy a house until you make at least 120, 150. You're not going to get a mortgage. And what's crazy is, in 2022, I got a mortgage with family income being, I think, 70,000. And now, to qualify for the mortgage, for pretty much my house, would be 150,000 family income. That's crazy. That's brutal.
Well, companies are more efficient in the U.S. And two, well, when Trump said to Walmart, "Eat up the tariff," well, he knew Walmart could eat up tariffs. In Canada, our companies can't. And if, say, for example,
what's the difference?
Efficiency, productivity, basically. And supply chains are managed very differently in Canada. So, for example, in Canada, if you have a supplier of peanuts because you're making peanut butter, well, you may actually have just 1 or 2 options. And if that price goes up, well, you have to suck it up. In the United States, well, they're a huge economy. A lot of people want to sell to the U.S. So if you're making peanut butter in the U.S. and you're buying peanuts, guess what? Many people want you to buy their peanuts.
So it comes down. What it comes down to is we need more trade deals, which we don't have. Who was in charge of that? Government. Liberal government. Who said they're gonna make the deals left and right? Mark Carney. And look, I heard some of the BS in the comments again, like, oh, we have trade deals. Yeah, but we have all the trade deals we have are pre-Mark Carney. All of those happened before Mark Carney became Prime Minister. Since Mark Carney became Prime Minister, he didn't sign a single deal. He tried to sign the deal with, I think, Germany, right? What happened to that? We didn't hear anything about that. Well, one of the reasons is that US obviously took the deal on the LNG, and even if Germany agreed to buy some liquid natural gas, we wouldn't be the main supplier anyway, and we don't really have an infrastructure because it would have to go to Asia. So pretty much Asia would buy it from us, and then Asia would send something to Germany. Why would Germany want that when they can get all of their needs from somewhere else and they already have the deal with US?
The difference between the U.S. and that's why going up against the U.S. with counter-tariffs was just an awful decision for our businesses and consumers.
Speak to the claim that I know we're going to see in the comments that says, no, this is just about the fact that we don't have any competition in Canada. We've got 3 or 4 companies that control everything, and they are monsters who are price gouging.
Yeah, I'm expecting it. In fact, I've been preparing for it for a month now because I knew more and more people will continue to say that without any evidence. And if you take some time to look at some evidence, you'll see that there's just no evidence of gouging. And I would encourage listeners to look at 2 metrics. One, gross margins. Gross margins are important to look at. Why? Because it's revenues minus the cost of goods. If that goes up, it means they're probably gouging you. Okay, and if you look at both, if you look at Metro, Loblaws, and Sobeys, all 3 of them, their gross margins are pretty stable. And I've actually posted a graph on X. I think it was yesterday. The other metric you would look at is same store food sales. When that metric is below food inflation, it means that the company is not riding the food inflation wave. Okay, it's making money selling you other things like cosmetics, clothing, prescription drugs, and things like that. So right now you're seeing 3 grocers that are well managed and they are making money, but not necessarily with food.
You and I sound like a couple of old men sitting around complaining about the price of food, because I look around my neighborhood here in downtown Toronto, or I look at numbers that you posted recently, and well, young people, they don't seem to notice. They're just, getting on the app and ordering more food. What did you say the other day? This is replacing or becoming an extension of the kitchen?
Yeah, for the younger generations, their smartphone is basically their new kitchen, basically. 38% of Gen Zs are using some of these apps on a regular basis, like DoorDash or Uber Eats. 38%. Millennials, 32%. Boomers, 12%.
And you forgot about Gen X, as everyone does.
I'm a Gen X, yes. Are you a Gen X?
Yes.
You are? Okay,
everyone forgets us.
Well, I'm used to it, so I don't talk about myself, or I guess, or us. But yeah. Gen X is basically in the middle. But yeah. So the cost of convenience, I'm not sure it's appreciated by the younger generations. As you know, this summer we actually learned that the Competition Bureau was suing DoorDash for not disclosing prices and fees as transparently as it should. And I'm not sure if younger consumers understand how much more it costs to get their food when they actually order food through these apps. It's just, it can add up, especially with fast food. If you order, I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is definitely ridiculous. And I found this out when I was living in Dubai. Well, when I was living back home in Czech Republic, I wasn't ordering out as much, right? But in Dubai, it's like, look, if you cook for yourself, you're gonna save so much money. And I found that out because I was on the, I don't want to say strict diet or anything like that, but I was just having a very healthy lifestyle, right? So I was buying myself groceries and cooking, right? And you save so much money. And it's really weird that nowadays, like the young generation with inflation, price of rent and everything, that they are still ordering out. And not only ordering out, right? Like ordering delivery. I understand if you once in a while go to McDonald's, pick it up or eat out, right? But you're also paying delivery fees. I don't know. It's kind of illogical. Oh, do you think all of these people voted liberals? Who knows?
A couple of hamburgers, fries, drinks. It can add anywhere between 20 to 60% more on your bill. It's just unbelievable.
I use the apps from time to time. I see what it costs, and that's why I go out and get the food. Either cook it at
exactly,
home or pick
right?
it up.
But fine dining, I mean, if you actually go beyond the mass chains, because like big chains dominate these platforms, but if you look beyond that, the noise of the McDonald's and the Starbucks, You'll find some really nice restaurants that are using those platforms. And with fine dining, you can actually save because you avoid the expensive bottle of wine, you avoid the expensive tip on the bottle of wine.
Yep.
And so there's probably some deals there, but for fast food, it's pretty darn expensive.
All right, Sylvain, always a pleasure to talk to you, and we'll ask people to give their view. Let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And
Yeah, no, definitely. Like DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and all of that. It's always interesting because you're just putting, like adding food into the cart, and somehow in the end the price is completely different than what you expected, right? Even if you're doing calculations kind of in your head, and then you press checkout, and it's like, holy damn, it's like $5-10 more expensive than what it was supposed to be, right? I don't know, like I don't order out anymore or delivery. Not even when I'm at work, because it's like I'm not gonna pay extra money for just someone. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, the person who's delivering it should be paid for it, but I'm not gonna pay extra money for delivery when I can bring food from home or buy it on the way to work. I don't know. It's ridiculous, but yeah, the main point of video, like the prices in the groceries, that's it's ridiculous. And it's interesting to find out that we're pretty much tariffed like twice, like with the coffee, right? 60% from or 50% from Brazil. Then we add another 25% on that. And look, out of nowhere you're taxed or tariffed 75. Actually even more, because it's probably 50% first, right? And then you get 25 from the total amount. So it's not 75% in total. It actually a little bit more. Yeah. Well, I would love to say that I hope Mark Carney will do something about it, but looking at the budget that I'm pretty sure we still don't have, and yet we know the deficit's gonna be like crazy high. I don't know, I'm almost starting to think that Justin Trudeau wasn't that bad comparing to Mark Carney, right? Anyway, just give me a comment if you have any feedback. Again, I'm always, if you're liberal, let me know why you voted for them. I would really love to know that. And yeah, so if you like the reaction, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.